President Trump's administration has unveiled significant tariffs targeting goods from China, marking a bold move in the ongoing trade war, and potentially the European Union, aiming to reshape international trade. These tariffs are part of a broader strategy to address what the administration sees as unfair trade practices. The goals include reducing the U.S. trade deficit, boosting domestic manufacturing, and creating jobs within American borders. By imposing these tariffs, the administration hopes to incentivize companies to bring their production back to the U.S. On March 30, 2025, a 25% tariff on Chinese imports was declared, affecting consumer electronics, clothing, and household goods. This move is expected to have a significant impact on the prices of everyday items. On May 23, 2025, a 50% tariff on EU imports was announced, postponed to July 9, 2025, after high-level discussions. These discussions aim to find a middle ground and avoid a full-blown trade conflict. These tariffs aim to make imported goods more expensive, encouraging companies to relocate production to the U.S. The administration believes this will lead to a resurgence in American manufacturing. However, businesses relying on global supply chains face considerable uncertainty and operational challenges. The increased costs and logistical hurdles could disrupt their operations and affect their bottom line. A 90-day pause on certain U.S.-China tariff hikes began on April 9, 2025, but a 10% baseline tariff on imports from many countries remains. This pause is intended to provide a window for negotiations and potential resolution. The elimination of the de minimis exemption for low-value imports from China on May 2, 2025, targets direct-to-consumer shipments, impacting online retailers and consumers. This change is expected to increase costs for small businesses and individual consumers who rely on affordable imports. Walmart and Target have expressed profound concerns over the new tariffs, foreseeing significant disruptions to their operations and consumer budgets. Walmart warns that price increases on a diverse range of products will be almost unavoidable due to their reliance on Chinese imports. Target predicts a noticeable rise in prices for electronics and household items, challenging their competitive pricing strategy. Both retailers are under pressure to navigate these economic waters, balancing increased import duties with the risk of alienating price-sensitive shoppers. The potential for these tariffs to dampen consumer demand is a significant concern, especially if wages do not keep pace with rising costs. Retailers face difficult decisions regarding pricing strategies, inventory management, and supplier relationships. The coming months will be critical in observing how these retail giants adapt. President Trump's tariffs are deeply affecting specialized retailers like Apple and Ross stores. Apple, with its manufacturing in China, faces the choice of absorbing costs or passing them to consumers, impacting demand for its premium products. Ross stores, reliant on low-cost overseas sourcing, anticipates higher costs for its merchandise, challenging its value-based model. Apple is exploring supply chain diversification, but such shifts are complex and time-consuming. The apparel sector, including Ross, is vulnerable, with industry groups urging tariff exemptions for footwear. The combination of direct tariffs on Chinese goods and potential trade tensions across Southeast Asia poses a significant challenge for sourcing affordable apparel and footwear. Retailers must navigate these headwinds to maintain their market positions. The announcement of a 25% tariff on Chinese goods has triggered panic buying among consumers. Shoppers are rushing to stores to secure items before price hikes take effect, particularly for big-ticket items. Major retailers like Walmart and Apple stores report empty shelves and increased demand for electronics and household goods. Discount retailers like Ross and Target also see higher foot traffic and sales volumes. This consumer behavior highlights the direct impact of trade policy on public sentiment and purchasing patterns. Retailers face logistical challenges in managing inventory and meeting the sudden spike in demand. The current tariff situation is causing inflationary anxieties and supply chain disruptions. Businesses face the choice of absorbing increased costs or passing them to consumers, fueling inflation. Retailers are scrambling to adjust their global sourcing networks, considering alternative suppliers or relocating production. Supply shortages and logistical bottlenecks are likely as companies navigate this new landscape. Finding new suppliers that meet quality, volume, and cost requirements is a formidable task. Some companies like Home Depot are diversifying their supply chains by sourcing more from domestic manufacturers or countries like Mexico. The process of integrating new partners into existing distribution networks is lengthy and resource-intensive. This period of adjustment is fraught with uncertainty and operational challenges for businesses. The escalating trade tensions and tariffs have led to fears of a recession. As these economic pressures mount, consumers are becoming increasingly anxious about their financial futures. Sustained price increases across a wide range of goods could diminish consumer purchasing power. This means that everyday essentials, from groceries to household items, are becoming less affordable for the average person. Reduced real disposable income can lead to a significant pullback in overall consumer demand. Families are forced to tighten their budgets, often cutting back on non-essential purchases and prioritizing only the most necessary expenses. Persistent inflation erodes confidence, leading to more cautious spending behavior. When consumers are uncertain about the future, they tend to save more and spend less, further slowing economic growth. Reduced demand can create a negative feedback loop, weakening the economy and increasing recessionary pressures. This can result in more store closures and job losses, exacerbating the economic downturn. The White House justifies the tariffs by emphasizing long-term goals like economic independence and domestic job creation. They argue that these measures are necessary to protect American industries and workers. However, higher costs for businesses and consumers could outweigh these benefits in the short to medium term. Small businesses in particular may struggle to absorb these increased costs, leading to closures and layoffs. The potential for a US-EU trade agreement to not be reached by July 9, 2025, adds another layer of concern. Such an outcome could further strain international relations and disrupt global trade. Significant trade disruptions in one major bloc can have far-reaching consequences globally. The interconnected nature of today's economy means that issues in one region can quickly ripple out to affect markets and consumers worldwide. Retailers are exploring strategic maneuvers to mitigate the impact of tariffs. Home Depot aims to maintain stable prices by diversifying its supply chain, sourcing more from domestic manufacturers and lower-cost regions like Mexico. The footwear and apparel sector is mobilizing, with industry groups seeking tariff exemptions for footwear. Certain market segments like the running gear market show resilience despite overall declines in U.S. footwear sales. Niche brands like Soar and Norda are pausing U.S. fulfillment of goods originating from China due to new tariff implications. These examples illustrate the pervasive reach of tariffs affecting even specialized players. Retailers must navigate supply chain complexities, manage cost pressures, and adapt to shifting consumer behaviors. The broader economic implications, including risks of inflation and recession, require careful monitoring and proactive policy responses. Governments are actively responding to the economic implications of President Trump's tariff policies. The European Union is fast-tracking trade negotiations to mitigate the impact of potential U.S. tariffs on its exports. The White House defends its tariff strategy, emphasizing long-term economic benefits for the U.S. Ongoing trade negotiations with China reflect an assertive stance, aiming for concessions that align with strategic objectives. A 90-day pause on certain U.S.-China tariff hikes began on April 9, 2025, offering a brief respite for further negotiation. The international response includes conciliation, retaliation, and strategic recalculation. Some nations are pursuing direct negotiations with the U.S., while others are strengthening trade ties with alternative partners. The outcomes of these diplomatic maneuvers will determine the extent and duration of current trade disruptions. The future of the retail industry is clouded by uncertainty due to ongoing tariff disputes. These disputes have created a volatile environment where retailers are struggling to predict costs and manage their supply chains effectively. Retailers are managing rising import costs while trying to maintain affordability for customers. This balancing act is becoming increasingly difficult as tariffs drive up the prices of goods, forcing retailers to make tough decisions about pricing and inventory. The balance between profitability and market share is being tested, with critical strategies needed for survival. Retailers are investing in technology and innovative solutions to streamline operations and reduce costs, but the pressure remains high. The July 9, 2025, deadline for a potential US-EU trade agreement looms, with significant implications for price increases and supply chain disruptions. This agreement could either alleviate some of the pressures or exacerbate the current challenges, depending on the outcome. Some market observers are skeptical about the longevity of tariff threats, but the impacts of implemented tariffs are real. Retailers are already feeling the strain, with some having to pass on the increased cost to consumers, leading to higher prices on the shelves. Retailers must navigate supply chain complexities, manage cost pressures, and adapt to shifting consumer behaviors. This requires a flexible approach and a willingness to innovate in order to stay competitive in a challenging market. The era of ever-cheaper imported goods may be facing a significant challenge, leading to a recalibration of spending habits. Consumers are becoming more price-sensitive, and retailers must find ways to meet these changing demands without sacrificing quality. The broader economic implications, including risks of inflation and recession, require careful monitoring and proactive policy responses from governments worldwide. Policymakers must work closely with industry leaders to develop strategies that support both economic stability and growth in the retail sector.